I am actually, my heart's racing. Valid points have been raised about the project. We are in July of 2010, and while I would counter for Mr. McKinnon that there is data everywhere necessary.
There is data.
There is data.
Sure.
But the reality is we're here today. I cannot produce a fact sheet or a project description, say 3 pages long, which truly identifies all the disparate elements that are in 9 million documents. And you cannot, Chairman,
Greg.
You cannot parrot or say that we have no project, we don't know what it is. Then why did this board over the last 5 years or 6 years spend probably at least $500,000, if not $1 million? We have these master plans, which we spent inordinate amounts of money, which I've always agreed that was the silliest thing for a town this size to spend that money, and say we don't have a project. We don't have a project yet, but we have to have a project plan. And Mr. McKinnon is exactly right. You do not go to a board, any board in any company, and say, I need $500,000, or I'm going to spend $700,000 of my federal money on a piece of an exploration, and they'll say, what for? Well, we think we're going to build a plant. Well, how big is it? Oh, it's 600 acre-feet. Well, why are you building 600 acre-feet? I mean, I've had that issue. It's also in 3 phases. The point is, we have to, and the community and the people who attended the meeting at Rabobank is, there is a vacuum of information that has to be filled.
Well,
and if our engineer at this stage can't take, in 3 days, put together a 4-page fact sheet which takes all the disparate information that he should have in his head by now and produce a document, then that he's not capable of doing. I think he can do it. I've seen him do it for other projects. We should do it for this project. And the idea that we've engaged a construction manager, and that's what they are, no question about that, a construction manager, and we don't know exactly what we want to build, because I have had this discussion and have asked for workshops, or at least we can do it at this meeting. The public is here and they'll listen to it. But I don't know that 600 acre-feet is the right size. And we can talk about what was in the report, but as far as I'm concerned, people who decided that have been replaced. And I want to see why we're building 600 acre-feet. I want to know what the disposition of the existing assets are going to be. And I think the public has a right to know. Millions of dollars have been spent in infrastructure on the wells. If the wells are being supplemented or supplanted, I don't know. These are there are detailed issues that have to be put together on a plain speaking 4 or 5 page question and answer or tables, and then we can discuss that if it need be. And from my perspective, I don't see how the Corps of Engineers can engage anybody unless they do the same thing. You don't engage a Black and Veatch or CH2M Hill and say, I want a plant. It's got to be desal. I realize, you know, I've been in the business. You do need to know what your influence characteristics are going to be and the ability to get it out. But my issue is there is no issue of whether we'll build it. There is no issue whether we'll do an intake. Whether it's 2 wells, 1 well, or 4 wells, we can get the water out of the ocean. We can build the plant. Technology, we will get it done. But the question is size, and then once we have the size, you need cost, operations costs, and then the impact on the ratepayer. And if we don't have a plan now, I cannot in conscience keep approving any expenditures of our money or the federal government's money, because it's our money too. I mean, I'm paying taxes like crazy to the federal government, to the state, and we pay rates here. So I have to disagree that if we cannot within the next 3 months or put together this information and have an open discussion, then we really have to have a real discussion about why we're proceeding on something that we don't have clarity on. And transparency means you can actually look through it. We don't want transparency, we want clarity. Clarity is what we need, and I don't have clarity. I mean, I have it in my mind because I've read the documents and I think, but I disagree with some issues, and I could be outvoted. I have no problem being outvoted, but I want to get that discussion on the table.
Well, you know why projects fail? Projects fail because they don't have resources, and I'm beginning to realize our ability to create the necessary fiscal end of things is very scary at this point in time. Number two, milestones are missed. We had a milestone that was January, maybe let's even say February. It's now July walking into August, and we still don't have what I would consider, if we look at the broad scope of this project to be, this credit, $3 million credit, is still somewhere in Washington, bouncing between Washington, LA, and so forth. Greg, I understand you're very knowledgeable of that process and you're accepting of it, but as a businessman, I don't accept it. I want to see that money. It's where's the money? And it's very, very important that we have some of these things are nailed down. And the one thing I understand, it's supplemental. But when we say supplemental, what does that mean? Do we just close this off and just open it up maybe 2 years from now, 3 years from now, for 180 days? Or like any of the other desal plants that are being operated, they're functioning every day.
Well, it's frustrating at times. It's maddening dealing with the Corps of Engineers and with the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. I do understand that bureaucracy, but that doesn't mean that I'm accepting of it. I don't accept it. It is so bad that the local LA District Office staff of the Corps of Engineers is embarrassed. They're embarrassed at the failure of their own agency to get this integral determination report approved. It's abominable. The Water Resources Development Act that authorized the $3 million credit was passed, what, 2 or 3 years ago. And here we are on the cusp of the Corps of Engineers going out and doing the geotechnical investigation, and that integral determination report is not yet finished. It's inexcusable. But it's like a Shakespearean or a Greek tragedy. It's where, you know, man is not in control of his fate. You know, we are somewhat at the mercy, in terms of this IDR process, at the mercy of the Corps of Engineers. And we are trying everything we can to move this through the Corps process as quickly as possible. And I will tell you, Director McKinnon, I have made many trips to Washington, D.C. on my own time, costing me personally a whole lot of income pushing this thing through. And quite frankly, I don't see other board members doing the same thing. You know, if you want to participate in the process and you want to see what it's all about, go back to Washington, D.C. and have at it. It is not easy.
No, thank
all right.
you.
Okay.